Can you feel true happiness alone, or does this feeling only come from shared experiences and connections amongst other people? Hi, guys, welcome back to the Interlinked podcast. I am your host, Ray, and today I decided to give you guys a video. So if you're not aware and you think that you're just listening to it, go ahead, open back your phone up. It's video today. I decided to do this because I took a solo trip and I wanted to dedicate this episode to just talking about my experience there and giving you guys some insight on the time that I had and the reflections I was having and just the overall perspective and knowledge that I gained from taking a trip alone. So, to give you some background, if you do follow me on TikTok, I posted like a 9-part series on all of this. So, you can check that out too. So, some background, I'm on spring break this week and I've been wanting to do something for a while. Like, I told myself, fuck it, I'll just take a solo trip. And I had been planning on planning the trip, but honestly, things just kept coming up. I felt like I kept putting it off and I was doing other things and I was just busy. So I end up on spring break and I'm like, "Oh my god, I still haven't planned anything." So my stepmom worked for United for 25 years and because of that, when she married my dad, I got this privilege to fly standby, and that applies to anywhere in the world, okay? And so it's basically like a temporary seat where I fly as long as there's enough seats on the plane. And so knowing that, I'm like, I can just go anywhere I want. Like, why did I still not book anything? And so it's like 6 p.m. on Monday, and I'm like, okay, I need to really get this together. Like, what is available? Where can I go? And so I call my stepmom and she's like looking into things and we were going back and forth. Originally, I did not want to go to Florida. I was like, anywhere but Florida. I wanted to avoid all the spring break shit. Like, I wanted time away and I wanted peace. I didn't want to, be out there in Miami. But so we're like going back and forth. I was considering San Diego. I was considering somewhere just completely out of the country. And she ended up mentioning Fort Myers. I had never really known much about Fort Myers, but she said that it might be chill, like the population is more older and it wouldn't be as crazy, but the weather would be nice. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look into that. So there ended up being a 7 a.m. flight available. And again, it's 6 p.m. on Monday. So the next day, there was a flight available for 7 a.m. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. She's like pushing me. She's huge on traveling. So she's like, who cares? Just go. Find an Airbnb and just go. And I was like, you're right. I should just go. So I ended up booking the flight and then I got on Airbnb real quick. I found one. I messaged them, I booked it, and I ended up receiving a message from them like, hey, you know that you have to be 25 to stay here, right? And I was like, oh, I did not see that. And so I mentioned, like, I'm a teacher. I'm very mature. I'm very clean. You won't even know I was there. And they ended up responding a few hours later and saying, you know, congrats, you got the stay. Before I even got confirmation that I was good to go, I had already booked my Uber, packed my bags. I was ready. Like, regardless if that didn't work out, I was going to go somewhere warm. So, packed my bags and did all of that regardless. So, I say all that to say this was a very spontaneous trip. It wasn't very planned. I didn't do much research. And the main goal was one, I wanted to just get out of town. Like, it was cold. It was literally starting to hail that night. And I was like, I need to get out of here. Two, I just wanted to prove to myself that I can enjoy alone time. And that's not just, I live alone. So it's not just like, oh, I can enjoy alone time. It's like, I can enjoy alone time somewhere separate from here, somewhere, an entirely new environment, I can still enjoy time alone. And I wanted to prove I can navigate a new place. And I also just wanted to test the power of my mind because around here, like where I live currently, I feel like my mind is very powerful. Like, whatever I want, it's mine. If I have an interest or something I want to do, it always finds me. Like, I talk all about that, oh, I'm interested in learning pottery. And then I go for a walk and find that, oh, there's ceramics right on my street. Or I want to go rock climbing. And then I find, it just comes up in conversation and I end up getting that opportunity. And so I know that my mind is powerful here, but I wanted to see, is it still powerful elsewhere? Like, can I still stumble upon these experiences and get what I want when I want it? Is this manifesting thing applicable in other areas? Is this law of attraction applicable? Like, all those things I talk about, can I still experience them out of my comfort zone? And spoiler, yes, I can. But yeah, I want to do more traveling. I want to get more out of my comfort zone. And this standby thing only lasts until I'm 26, and I'm 24 and a half right now. So I have like a year and a half until it expires, and I want to use it up. So not that I can use it up, but like I want to get my use out of it. And I feel like I truly have not used it. And I've had it since I was like 14. And so it just feels like at this point, what am I waiting for? Like, why anyone would be so lucky to have that. And I'm so privileged to have this in my back pocket. And I just don't want to waste it anymore. So I really wanted to see, do I enjoy traveling alone? Because if I do, I need to implement this more. I also just wanted to be more creative. I feel like I've been a little stuck being at home. It's hard to feel inspired and really motivated to do things when you're in this cycle of just waking up, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And even the things that I do enjoy, like going to get my coffee and going to the gym, I love my little routine, but sometimes you have to break that to be like, okay, let me get out of my own way for a second. Let me force myself to be uncomfortable, and then I can get back to my routines. But yeah, I just wanted to see how this would go, and that's what I'm making this episode about, to tell you about it. So, at the end of last week's episode, I mentioned that you shouldn't leave anything unsaid. I said there's so much power in talking to strangers and putting yourself out there and giving compliments as soon as you have them. So, you like someone's hair, you like somebody's outfit, you tell them, regardless of any situation, regardless of if you feel like you're too shy, if you feel like you'd be embarrassed, all of those things. And so I made a very, very conscious effort to practice what I preach. And I talk to a lot of strangers. So being on this trip, yes, I was alone, but everywhere you go, there's people. And so you never really are truly alone. At any given point, you can bump into someone, you can spark a conversation, you can give a compliment. If you feel like you struggle with having conversations or speaking your mind or complimenting someone or just talking to a stranger, you shouldn't limit yourself from talking to strangers because of rejection or the fear of embarrassment. Because I also made a TikTok on this, that embarrassment is not real, it's all in your head. And it's a risk to talk to a stranger. It's putting yourself out there. And if you go in with the mindset that all people are rude and people are judgmental and people aren't going to respond well if you say something to them, that is the worst mindset that you can possibly have. And instead, I want you to go in with the mindset that people are going to be receptive to whatever you have to say. And they're going to be positive and they're going to be appreciative and they're going to have gratitude that you decided to open your mouth and tell them whatever it is that you wanted to say. So it is a risk to say something to someone, but every time you put yourself out there, the world feels less scary. Like every time you decide to give a stranger a compliment, or you decide to ask a question, or be curious, or whatever it may be, and you have a positive response, your brain will remember that. And then moving forward, you can operate out of the mindset that people are kind, people respond well to what I have to say. And you won't have that barrier. You honestly won't even have to like check with yourself. Should I say something? Should I not? You're not even going to be experiencing that because your brain is familiar with the fact that prior to whatever experience you're having right now, it's been positive. And so, why would you even doubt saying something when all your experiences before were uplifting? Of course, there's people that are going to be dry. Okay. It's natural. You might say something and you don't get the most positive and uplifting response, but that's okay. Like you bounce back. I don't think people are blatantly just going to be mean. Like you say you like something about someone. I've never gotten a mean response. I've gotten a dry one, but it's not been a mean one. It's either closed off or positive. Those are like the two things I've experienced. It's never, why would you say that to me? You know? But everyone has their own stories, and it's so interesting to open your mind to other people's perspectives and allow them to just speak, allow them to share their story. And as long as they feel like you're being genuine and you actually care about what they have to say, people are so much more receptive to opening up and talking to you and sharing their experiences. And I think that's very valuable. Every person I spoke to, I felt like, wow, this is valuable information. This was an amazing conversation. And not to go tit for tat, like I'm documenting every single interaction that I've had, but at the airport, I told this girl in line, as soon as I got to the airport, I'm like, you need to challenge yourself. And so I saw this girl in line and I loved her hair, loved her braids. And I was like, hey, I love your hair. And it took me a little while. It really did. Like, you know how TSA wraps it like snakes around. So the first time I saw her, I was like, oh my God, I love her hair. And then I'm like, I don't want to say anything. Like, I'm scared. And then she ended up going this way. And I'm like, oh, shit, I missed my opportunity. And then she snaked back around and I'm like, oh my God, I have to say something now. And I almost missed her again. I'm like, bitch, if you don't just say you like her damn hair. So I told her, and what was scary about that? She said thank you and that was it. Like, did we have a crazy conversation afterwards? No. I said I liked her hair. She said thank you and that was it. But for me, I was like, okay, like we're starting off strong. We got to keep this going throughout the trip. And so I tell the TSA guard, I'm like, I love your perfume. And you know how TSA people are typically very, not in the best mood. But I told her and she was very receptive and it seemed like she responded well to it. So that was good. I was out to dinner and I told the host I loved her nails. She was really stressed out. Like there was a fat ass line and she was telling everybody, the wait is an hour and a half, the wait is 2 hours, all this shit. And so, she's not having a good time, having to just keep repeating. And like I said, the population in Fort Myers is very old. So, you know how old people are. Like, what do you mean I'm 47th in line? Like, what does that mean? How long is that? And where am I supposed to wait? You know how people are. And so I knew she was having a rough time. And I did like her nails. It's not like I'm lying. But yeah, I told her. And all the stress seemed to like melt from her face for just a split second. And that made me feel good because I'm like, you never know what people are experiencing, and a little compliment goes a long way. And yeah, there was other experiences that I had where it was a little compliment here and there, but I think it's the ripple effect, and you never know what one compliment that you give can do for somebody's day and how it will then impact somebody else's day that they encounter. And so the conversations that I had with those strangers all started just from a small compliment. And then on the reverse side, ironically, the same place that I was waiting an hour for dinner that I complimented the host, I was walking around trying to figure out, like, oh, what could I do while I wait? And I stumbled upon this beautiful area where there was a little ledge and people were sitting there, and they obviously had the same idea, like, where should I go while I wait? And it was gorgeous. It was right on the water. Like, my feet were dangling. And I brought a sketchbook on this trip. And that was the other thing. I really wanted to challenge myself to be more creative. And so I went and I sat down and I started to sketch what I saw, because that was kind of my thing for this trip. Instead of journaling, I was like, let me instead try to draw what I see. And so I sit down and I start to draw. And as I'm drawing, I'm not paying attention to anything that's going on besides what's in front of me and my sketchbook. And somebody behind me is like, hey, I'm not stalking you. I'm not in your business, but you're really good at drawing. It's been amazing to see how you've done this whole process. And I turn around and I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. And we're just talking, and I find out that these people, it was this older couple, they were actually from Avon, and I went to school in North Ridgeville. So I'm like, wow, we were neighbors, like essentially neighboring cities, and we just had the best conversation. And that was them starting a conversation from a compliment. So this was the drawing that I did. And as we're as I'm talking about ripple effect, I'm like, wait, the other drawing that I did just prior looks like this. And then the little quote that I put in the corner says, throw it like this. And then all of these little things say, like this, like this, like this. And it was because there was this family next to me, and the dad was telling the daughters how to throw the pebbles to like create, skip rocks and shit. Well, I hearing that, it just inspired me, and this drawing is genuinely giving a ripple effect. Wow, interlinked. I'm telling y'all, everywhere I go, there's something. But anyways, so yeah, I had a beautiful conversation with this older couple, and that was from them giving me a compliment. So I just thought it was cool to experience the other side of it, because I was making this huge effort to compliment everybody else and seeing where that was getting me. But then for them to start it and me to experience it on the other end, it was just interesting. And I saw how other people can feel when I do it to them. I also spent a lot of time in Ubers, okay? When I booked this Airbnb, it said on the description, within walking distance of the beach, within minutes of the beach. Guests love this because it's within walking distance of the beach, da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, perfect. I love to walk. I want to just be able to get to the beach. I don't care that it's far from the airport, because I'd rather be close to the beach, and then yeah, I'll have to take a drive to the airport, but I only have to do that twice. So I'd rather just account for those drives, and beyond that, be able to just walk wherever I want to go. Well, that was not the case. This was not within walking distance of the beach. That would have been like 2 hours. It was within walking distance of a Publix, of a gas station, and a couple other things that, are irrelevant to me. But that was, the result of me booking a trip the night before I left. So we can't really complain about that one. But anyways, it required me to take a lot of Ubers. And so I had a lot of great conversations with people, and it honestly made my trip. Like thinking back, that was one of my favorite things was all the Uber rides. And I had such a wide range. I had, the funny tour guide Uber that's like giving me all the backstory of like, oh, there was a hurricane here. This was one of the boats that came up on shore, and this used to be this, and here's a strip club. Like, just giving me, you know, the background on the area. And he was really funny and chill. And then I also had very deep conversations with people. Like, I had this one Uber driver that worked at a post office, and he seemed pretty closed off. But once I asked him, how's your day going? Like, what have you been up to? And he told me that he had worked his shift there prior to starting driving. And as I asked him questions, he opened up so much. And I realized he was quiet and closed off because he had had such a rough day. And sometimes people just really need you to ask them genuine questions and care about their day. And Ubers, especially, who's caring about their day? They're the one that is required to get tips and fight for, 5 stars, and try to ask the person that gets in the car, how's your day? And where are you going? And what have you been up to? And oh, you're on vacation. And they're always the ones asking the questions. And so I made and always have made a conscious effort to make sure that I'm the one asking them questions, because it feels good when other people care about your small little life. Like, we're all just specks existing and having our own troubles and our own drama and our own stresses, but it feels good to be noticed. And so the conversation that I had with him was just amazing. And I'll just go ahead and insert a little clip of that here too for you guys. I used to think of it from a perspective of like, wow, I hate going to the post office because everyone there is so rude. But then I realized, why are they rude? And I'm like, it definitely has to do with the treatment that you guys, yes, like the treatment that you guys get. It's like, no wonder somebody comes in and you just are like ready to get it over with, because you just probably dealt with that lady that you just had, where it's like, oh my God, can someone just have an easy task? Because you basically have like returns. Like, you're basically like working at a store and you are in returns, because that's constantly.
I worked 7 years in gas station, 7-Eleven gas station. After that, I got this job. Yeah. And I know how to, treat the customer.
Right, like customer service, but it's just a whole new beast when it's just constant issue after issue, I'm sure.
If her fault or his fault, I will always say sorry.
Right, like it's always, oh, what can I do to help you? What can I do to make the customer feel better? No, that's so true. So I was able to get this beautiful perspective from him. And as I mentioned, you typically think, oh, people at post offices are miserable. I hate going there. I hate going to the BMV because of that. I hate going to all these certain locations where people seem miserable and bitter. But in reality, those are the people that are dealing with all of these customers and all these returns and just peak customer service. Like, they are dealing with every mad customer, every customer that didn't get what they wanted. And so no wonder they have somebody come in and don't want to deal with them, as I mentioned. So it's good to talk to people and get a perspective on jobs that you don't have, that you will never have, or you haven't had in the past, and you get to see this is how things work. I always say I wish more people could be in the service industry in terms of like bartending or serving, because they don't understand how that works. And that to me is like the biggest annoyance when, you know, people just have no awareness of how you should exist in a restaurant, or how wait times work, or how you should talk to the server, or how you should ask for certain things that you need. or how you should be considerate. Those are like basic skills that sometimes you can't get unless you talk to somebody that's experienced it or is well versed in that area or field, or you live it yourself. So we can't always do every job in the world, and that's why it's good to have perspectives from people that do, or have conversations with people that have that perspective, because it just makes you a better, more empathetic, more understanding human. And what more can we want in the world? I had another conversation with an Uber driver talking about how, he's retired and he lives in not only Florida, but he lives in Michigan and some other places. And he has all of these different locations that he travels to. And we were talking about thrifting and stuff, because he was like, yeah, my wife, she thrifts so that when we go to Michigan, she has clothes there. And then when we go here, she doesn't have to worry about packing a huge bag because she has clothes in every location. I was like, wow, that's my future. Like, that's really going to be me, having houses in all these different areas and just bouncing around, having all my thrifted items. Yeah, that sounds like the life. So I was just like, it's cool to hear from different age groups too, because it's like, it gives you a glimpse of what am I going to be doing when I'm retired? Like, am I going to be doing something on the side just to keep me busy? Or what am I going to be doing with my time? Or where am I going to be living? Or am I going to be settling down? Or am I going to just be traveling all the time? And so that was a cool conversation. And then I had an absolutely beautiful conversation with this other Uber driver. It was actually my last one of the trip on the way to the airport. And this man lived in Brazil. He was born in Queens and he lives in Fort Myers now. And wow, he just had an amazing perspective. We were talking about all the things that have been on my mind lately. And once again, interlinked, like literally had this topic written down in my notes to talk about as a podcast episode. And it just fell from the sky out of nowhere in our ride together. I'll go ahead and insert that clip here too, because you guys just have to hear it.
I'm confined to this. This is what they want me to do.
Exactly. And I feel like also the way that we're headed in society, kids are not being set up properly for the jobs that they're going to have. I don't even know what jobs are going to be available.
Nobody knows.
And
AI is replacing everything.
Yeah, and the fact that we're setting up kids to learn in a way that was built for, oh, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be all these like specific jobs. And it's like, they have talents. Like, I see skills in my students that I'm like, you need to explore this. You need to be taught something that will help you with this particular thing. But instead it's like, oh, here's a geometry class, here's an English, here's a history. Like, I understand they need to be well-rounded. They need to be, equipped with problem-solving skills. But at a base level, how long should that take before they should be able to just get to whatever it is that they need to get to? Because damn well no one's remembering physics. No one's they're not remembering it. So why is that still even how it works? It just doesn't line up for me. And
a lot of things doesn't line up for me. We don't teach kids how to be entrepreneurs. We don't teach them how to be
my thing.
Business people. We don't teach them how to do their own taxes. Like, everybody should get out of high school knowing how to do their own taxes. Right?
Exactly.
No one should go to school not knowing how to do basic accounting, or learn how to start a business, or learn how to be mechanics, and welders and all that stuff. And then they should be saying, okay, now that you've got those tools down, what else do you want to know? You want to know about traveling? You want to, like, there should be a school trip to say, okay, we're going to take these kids to Egypt, and they're going to go there and they're going to come back. Or they're going to, there's nothing in the curriculum unless you go to private school where they get everything, I just realize a lot of things is wrong with the system. But again, the system is set up to build drones. We want you working at McDonald's for, or Amazon or those jobs. Anything else, or basketball players or whatever. came from like Ivy League school.
Right.
You know, they went to the best schools that money could buy. You know, or some of them got lucky and made it rich, and then I didn't get in. But it's set up that the rich do well, and then they take care of their friends, and then they'll take care of their
exactly.
friends. So,
and then that's why they say it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Because you surround yourself with those types of people, you get in where you fit in, you know. And I think, though, the thing that you mentioned about like just setting society up for just the same thing,
yeah,
that's like my whole thing recently. I'm just like, they burn the kids out,
yep,
so that the kids are so focused on, oh, I have to do my history homework, I have to do my physics homework, I have to do all of this.
Right.
The kids are burnt out after school. They don't have time to explore the things that they want to learn, the things that they want to do.
Right.
Even with, you know, TikTok at their fingertips, where they could sit down and learn a whole accounting or a whole entrepreneur thing.
Right.
But they probably just want to sit on their phone and watch something more, you know, mindless, because they're so tired from their day.
Yep.
So it's like you just have this whole system where the teachers are burnt out. The teachers can't do shit after school that would be productive for them. And then the kids also don't have the mental capacity either. So everyone's burnt out, everyone's tired, keeps everyone in the same cycle of just doing the same thing every day, being unhappy, not exploring your true passions. It's just like, it's fucked.
Yep. And then there's the flip side of it. You may have a parent that says, oh, you're going to be a doctor. And the kid is like, no, daddy, I want to be a basketball player. Oh, I want to be a writer. I want to be an actor. And they're like, no, you're going to be a doctor. And then the kid is, I never forgot, because I was a writer for a while. And I was taking my son to the doctor, and the doctor said, you a writer? And I go, yeah. And she goes, wow, I really wanted to be a writer. And I was like, really? She goes, yeah. And then my dad forced me to be a doctor. And I was like, I never went back to her again. Because I could tell in her face and her expression, she didn't really want to do that job.
Wow.
You know, I could tell right then and there it was something that, it was because of maybe her dad and mom, or wherever they were, doctors or whatever, and she had to be a doctor, you know.
That's such a common trope.
Yes.
Like, literally, why force your kid to do something just because you think it's going to make them money, or you think it's going to bring, because the money is never going to bring them happiness. If they wanted to be a writer, like, she's going to die knowing I could have been a writer.
Could have been.
How sad is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you have to do what you feel called to do, and you can't take it from anybody else besides your internal, you know,
you gotta
monologue.
Listen to yourself. You know, there's a, I think Denzel Washington was talking about that. He was like, when you get up in the morning, don't touch your phone, don't do anything. Just get up and just have like 5 minutes of quiet to yourself. And listen to yourself. And if somebody will talk to you, you know, or your inner self you'll be able to listen to yourself talk.
Yeah, I'm big on that, because even if you think you don't have something weighing on you, our mind doesn't usually let us rest. So the thing that pops into your head is actually going to tell you, like, oh, I didn't even realize I was stressed about that. Look at, my mind is racing, you know? So if you're feeling kind of similar on this subject, and maybe not teaching in particular, or, you know, the specific things that I mentioned, but at least having that understanding of society just feeling very outdated, I hope that hearing our conversation made you guys feel less alone on that, and made you feel like you aren't the only one that's looking at our society thinking, what is going on? Like, how are we going to elevate? How are we going to feel more aligned? And how can we break free of these restrictive bounds that no longer apply to us as a society? People always say, oh, your generation this and your generation that. But I truly feel like our generation is the generation that has this grasp on society where it's like, this shit doesn't have to be as stressful and as strict as it always was prior. Like, we don't have to work ourselves to death, and we don't have to follow these paths that our parents think are the only ones. We can break those barriers. We can choose our own path. We can be influencers. We can make a living completely out of our bedroom. We can work from home. We can travel and work from our laptops. And we can learn all the information we need to know about something from TikTok, if we have the time, of course. Like, it's just crazy that we have that understanding, but trying to express that to people that aren't in that same mindset can be very taxing, and it can be very overwhelming and defeating, because you see what is possible for yourself and what others are doing, and you want to do it too, but the people in your life that are supposed to be pushing you to do whatever you feel called to do are the same ones telling you, oh, this is what you should be doing. Or when I was younger, da 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 da. And it's like, we are not living the same timeline. And we shouldn't feel like we have to exist to please other people. Like, live for yourself. I actually originally had this in my notes to talk about because I watched this movie called Waves, and I actually was recommended by TikTok, which never works out usually. Like, the recommendations that I see on there are usually so ass. I end up watching them and I'm like, what a waste of time. Like, all right, do we ever give them a shot again? But I did. I did give this one a shot. I had nothing else to watch and I was like, fuck it, I'll watch it. This movie is so eye opening. I think for me, it just was so relatable. Like, right off the rip, the toxic relationship that was shown, I was like, wow, this is hitting home. So if you haven't seen this movie, it is set in high school. So it's following people that are in high school and showing, the dark side of how being pushed so hard can actually cause you to just spiral out and do things that you never would have thought you would have done. And so the boy in this movie, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but basically his dad pushes him so hard. He does wrestling, and his dad is like that classic parent that is like never happy with what he's doing. His performance is never good enough, like constantly pushing him to do more, train harder, lift heavier, all of that. And it shows all of this pressure that the kid is feeling. And he's fighting through, this shoulder injury that he really shouldn't be wrestling, but he does anyway because of his dad. And it just shows what spirals from that. And it's actually insane. But I, again, will not spoil it because you guys need to watch it. But it was really inspiring to me because there's so much pressure from society, from our peers, from your parents. And oftentimes the most successful people in high school end up being the most fucked up in their adult years, because that pressure that they felt, they have to release somehow. And eventually it's like holding up this image of being perfect your whole life. That's exhausting. You cannot bear that weight and keep that image up for your entire life. And if you do and you don't snap, in your 20s, you're going to end up having a midlife crisis, because no one truly can bear that weight and hold it together their entire life. And if you can, your mind has got to be a mess. Like, there's no way that you have inner peace, because take it from me. I mean, I've always been that perfectionist. I've always been, you know, had a 4.3 GPA in high school, had a 3.96 in college. I really cared about my academics, but it burns you out. It burns you out. And I always said I lived a double life, because while I was very focused on academics, that only lasted Monday to Friday. Like, the weekends, I would at least have one day where I would go out, I would party, and I would release. Then I might lock back in, Sunday morning, or maybe I'm locked in the whole weekend besides one small night, but I at least had that release. And it's necessary. I'm not saying that drinking and partying was like the best way to go about it, but for me, that was what I knew, and that's what I did. And I needed that social interaction. I needed that moment to just chill out and relax and forget about that thing. But this movie is just really, really accurate to that struggle that I felt. And luckily, I understood that being able to release and recharge is important. But some people, they have that pressure from their parents. I never had it from a parent perspective. I had it internally. When it comes from a parent, I am not as well versed in that because I didn't have that. I don't have that lived experience. But watching the movie, it's like, oh my God, I'm so lucky that I didn't have that. Because not only do you feel that pressure internally and from your peers and from your coach, to then feel it from your parent too, that is so exhausting. So watch that movie. And I hope that this discussion was a little eye opening for you. If you do feel like you're pushing yourself too hard, way back, I mentioned that term ahimsa, which is non-violence. Practice that within yourself. Give yourself grace. It's so important. Okay, and then at the airport, I also had a beautiful interaction with these two strangers. There was nowhere to sit. I was waiting for my flight and I'm looking around. I spot one open seat. So I go sit there and immediately this old man, he starts talking to me and we were just chopping it up. Right away, it felt super comfortable. He literally was like, "Can you watch my stuff? I'm going to go get snacks. You want anything?" Like we were just so cool, and we were talking about life and we were talking about his job, and he's an entrepreneur. He has his own business, and so I was gaining a lot of perspective from him on that. And it was just great conversation. And I feel like I gave him some perspective on the way that I live my life because he was mentioning how stressed he was about the flight, and our flight was delayed and he was really stressed about it. He's like, "I'm taking a gummy. I need to go get a beer." And I was like, "Do not worry, it will work out." Me flying standby, he was just so impressed with the fact that I also wasn't stressed about that, not to mention that our plane wasn't even there. And so I kind of just gave him the motivation that I'm constantly preaching online, which was slow down, don't stress over things you can't control. And he was probably like 65 years old, but I get to tell him to slow down. I get to have valuable advice to give to someone that's like 3 times my age. How sick is that? It's like no matter who you are and your age and your experiences, you still have something valuable to share with somebody else. And I felt very honored and blessed that I could give him a little piece of me and show him this is what it looks like to exist more freely. And I feel like he'll really take that with him. And that was just really cool to, you know, think like, wow, moving forward, I hope that he remembers this conversation. And when he's working from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, I hope that he just thinks like, I do have the right to slow down. I can't afford some time by myself. I should be more present. And yeah, I thought that was pretty beautiful. And when I was on the plane, he actually came up to me and he held my hand and he was like, "It was so nice to meet you." And we just had this beautiful interaction. And later, near the end of the flight attendant actually stopped by and she like offered me a drink because she was like, "Oh, you made a new friend. Are you over 21? Do you want a drink?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm good. I don't drink, but thank you. That's so kind of you." And she was like, "And also, these are from Mike. He said don't forget him." And it was like these little lifesaver gummies. And I just felt so good. I actually drew him a little picture, but I wasn't able to give it to him. It says Mike Saver. And then I wrote him a little note that says, "Remember to slow down." I cannot read backwards. "Remember to slow down, live life a little more carefree. Don't stress over things you can't control. Pleasure to meet you." And I wasn't able to give it to him because there was turbulence and we weren't able to stand up at the moment I finished, but that's okay. All that matters is he had the conversation, and I hope that he takes it with him. But yeah, I loved that conversation, and it was just cool that moments before we were strangers. Also, to mention how interlinked, I'm telling y'all, everywhere I go, everything I experience ends up coming about later on. So I get to my apartment after leaving the airport, right? And he gave me gummies. He was talking about how he took a gummy and he also gave me gummy little fruit snacks or whatever. So I get back to my apartment. I head inside. I'm chilling for a little while, and then it's time for me to leave again. So I go out of my door, I lock it, and I turn to my left, and there's this woman sitting on the ledge that's like in our hallway, and sprawled out are all of these packages. And she's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hi, how are you doing?" And she's like, "Good. I just got back from a trip to Michigan." And I was like, "Oh, sick. I just got back from a trip to Florida." And I'm like, "What is all of that?" And she's like, "Girl, I just got however many packages of gummies for like $100. She bought gummies." And I was like, "Is this real?" Like, I was like, "Oh my God, really?" And she's like, "Yeah, if you ever need any, like, I'm the gummy girl." And she was telling me she's lived in this apartment for half of her life. And if you need anything, I'm just up the stairs and down the hall. And I just thought it was crazy because I've never seen this woman. I've been living in this apartment for 2 years. Okay. And the day I have an encounter with somebody and we're talking about gummies and I get gifted the gummies and I'm like, "Oh, that was so sweet and positive." Then somebody else mentions gummies and a possible connection through that. Like, what? I don't eat gummies, but like, how ironic that it gets brought up the same day. And what a sweet little reminder of Mike. Like, how could I forget him when I have a little reminder down the hall? So I thought that was so cute. But, anyways, rapid fire, other things that I learned on this trip. I learned to be less structured, to be less type A. I'm very type A. I try to act like I'm go with the flow, but when it comes down to it, I am a perfectionist, and I don't want to say that anymore because I'm trying to be more in flow and just allow myself to fail and create and be okay with imperfections and all of that. But it is a learning experience and it is something I'm working through. So as soon as I got there, I sit down and I start Googling places to eat, and I start Googling where's the closest beach? And I'm on Lyft and I'm on Uber, checking the distance from all these restaurants and making sure if I go to this beach, is that close to this restaurant? And if I go do this activity, where am I going to end up so that I can get here faster? And I'm like, bro, you need to just get out of here. Like, you're wasting time. Get to the beach. Who cares? Go to Fort Myers Beach and just go. Everything will work out beyond that. And I just kept repeating to myself, what is the rush? Like, we are all in such a rush all the time. We're in a rush in traffic, beeping the horn, like, why can't they hurry up? We're in a rush, at dinner, as I mentioned, the angry old people mad that there's a wait for dinner. And then me deciding to go find beauty in the wait. Like, having this long conversation with these two old men at the airport. Like, that flight was getting delayed and delayed. We were sitting there for probably 3+ hours just talking. And I wasn't even considering or thinking about the delay or the possibility of not making it on the plane because I was being fully present in this conversation. And that's all I really cared about. Also, as I mentioned, I had hoped that I was going to be able to walk everywhere. That wasn't necessarily the case, but I did still decide to go outside and just walk because I was like, there is beauty in getting places slower and being outside. And yeah, I'm going to eventually take an Uber, but why not walk a little bit before we get to that point? why not make this travel a little bit longer, but find beauty in the journey, not the destination? It all comes down to instant gratification. So I just urge you that if you are finding yourself constantly in a rush, constantly getting agitated because, something is moving slow, or you get stuck behind a train, or all of these things where it's like, does that really matter? Like, why are we in such a rush? There's a long line somewhere. Do you have anywhere to be? It's different if you do, but like, if you don't have anywhere to be, what's the rush? You know, find beauty in those moments where you have to wait for something. And I feel like I've talked about this before, but there is so much beauty in having to work for something and, not having your dream body right away. You have to work for that. Or not having your business take off right away and going through that stage where it's like, is this even going to work? Am I even going to make it? And then when you do, it's just so much sweeter. Like, find bliss in that middle period. Find peace in waiting. As for being alone, taking this trip alone was a huge step for me. And as I mentioned, I do live alone, but being in a different environment, it forced me out of my comfort zone in a way that being in my apartment and my space doesn't offer me. So it allowed me to feel more independent because I had to make all the decisions. I couldn't rely on what anybody else wanted to do. I couldn't ask, "Oh, what do you want to eat for dinner?" Or "Where do you want to go?" Or "What time do you want to head out?" It was all based on me. So I had to really be more independent to get to the destination, to make the most of my day, to enjoy my time. And I felt good doing that. I felt really proud of myself that, people would ask me, "Oh, you're here alone?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Wow." Like, they're impressed. They're like, "Wow, you took that leap and you just went for it." Hell yeah. So, yeah, I felt more in tune with my own wants and my own needs. I didn't have to think about being considerate of, "Oh, you want Mexican and I want seafood." No, I want seafood. I want seafood twice. Let's get it twice. Like, I don't got to worry about anybody else's wants but my own. So, I felt really in tune with my own wants and just listening, like, okay, what do I want to do today? All right, let's go do that. And it's a different type of a recharge when you don't have all this external stimuli. Like me being a teacher, I was like, I actually really would benefit from a trip alone because I'm constantly overstimulated. And so taking this trip alone was like me, myself, and I, just pure peace. I also felt a lot more present and mindful because I don't know. I felt like I was such an observer to everything else that was going on. Like everybody else was having interactions, and so they were focused on speaking to another person and having this experience and, just talking, and they were busy. Their minds were busy in conversation. And I, on the other hand, was just there. I was just an observer. I was just like a passerby, if that's even a word. I felt almost like a ghost. I know that sounds weird, but like everything that I was looking at, it was like I wasn't actually alive. I was just seeing how people are living their lives and feeling the emotions that they feel as though I was their ghost. Like, for instance, I saw these two older guys playing football on the beach, and they seemed so happy, y'all. Like, the way that he was throwing it, like, it's like when you see a dad bowl and you're like, okay, we know you've done this before. And like, they make their form really perfect. And it's like, clearly in another life when they were younger, that was their thing. And so that's how I felt watching these people play football. And I was like, just envisioning them on the field as high school students throwing the ball and, being the jocks of the high school and having all the girls and, walking around in their Letterman jackets and just like I saw all of that just by them throwing the ball. And it made me feel so much happiness for them. Like, wow, I'm experiencing the nostalgia that they feel right now of themselves when they were younger. Pretty crazy. I know it sounds insane, but like, wow, time flies. Like, oh, I remember our prime gym, just throwing the ball. Yeah, I just felt all of that just by looking at them. And then I saw this group of grandmas and grandpas at dinner, and they were all hugging each other goodbye and like, it was so nice seeing you, and we got to do this more often. And I also felt that same feeling again because I was like, I can envision how they were when they were younger. And they haven't done this in years, so I'm just picturing the years prior that they did do this and them being younger, and like I saw those older versions, well, younger versions of them. And I just felt like I was stepping foot into their shoes and feeling the nostalgia again. And then also feeling that weird pang of like, what if they never get to do this again? Because they were like really old, you guys. There was so many old people. But like, I was like, oh my God, what if Marjorie never gets to see Mary Pat again? I just felt so sad for Mary Pat. I'm like, oh my God, why am I such an empath right now? And I saw these ladies at the beach, and this was a huge group of women. They were probably like 55, I would say, so not too old, but they were drunk and loud, and they were having the best time. And I glanced over and I smiled, and the woman is like, sorry, I know we're probably so annoying, like if you need us to shut up, just come punch me. And I was like, no, you guys seem like you're having the best time, like enjoy, don't let me like have the best time. And they were just having a ball, and again I felt like I was transported into their shoes of like them being younger, and it reminded me of me and the girls that I'm still close with from high school, and it just put me in their shoes of like, this is going to be us when we're older. Kennedy, Alex, Riley, if you're listening, you're who I'm talking about, obviously. But yeah, having like a close girl group like that throughout high school and like still being friends, it just put me in the shoes of like, oh my God, that's going to be me. And I hope I'm still this lively and enjoying my life in this way. And so once again, I'm like this ghost that's just seeing all of these things and like feeling the emotions that they're feeling just by looking at them, just by observing. And then, I saw people sharing food, and I was like, oh, that is the best experience. Like getting something and then everyone trying each other's, and why don't we get this? And then you can have half of mine. And just watching that interaction, I've done that my whole life, like partners, family, whatever. It's like sharing food is just such a beautiful part of human connection. And, you know, then at the airport and at dinner, I was seeing all these iPad kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel out of body here because I'm just like seeing myself and how I was as a child, and then seeing how I turned out and now having access to technology. But then kids nowadays starting out not with the childhood that I had, but with tech infused eyes, and right from their youngest, most imaginative state. And I again felt empathy and sympathy like, oh my God, how are they going to turn out when their eyes are glued to this iPad? And are they able to be creative? And then as I'm thinking that, I get sat next to this little girl on the plane, and it reminded me of my younger sister, Sarah. The entire time we were on the plane, she was drawing, and she was doing it on an iPad. But I was like, I can support that. Like, watching the juxtaposition of like iPad kid, just headphones on, like picking their nose, eating snacks, playing games, scrolling, and then seeing this little girl who was just drawing. Like, yeah, she's still on an iPad, but I don't know, it really reminded me of my little sister. So I was like, oh, I feel so many feelings right now just looking at her. And so, yeah, just I was so observant of human connection, and it was really interesting that I felt so much just looking at people. And I guess I always do, but it was just heightened when I was alone because I wasn't experiencing anything with anybody else. So I had no choice but to be observant and be hyper fixated on all of these other people that are surrounding me and really put myself in their shoes. So, yeah, oddly enough, if you don't feel like you are empathetic enough or you don't feel like you're present enough, spend some time alone, but in public. Like, go to a public setting and just people watch because, yeah, it's crazy the emotions and the things that come up that maybe you didn't even know you were wrestling with, or you felt passionate about, or you felt nostalgia for, or whatever it may be. Like, that's all going to come to the surface if you don't distract yourself and you are fully present and just aware of what's going on around you. So, did I achieve my goals for the trip? I would say absolutely. Did I clear my head? Yes, I did. Did I enjoy my time alone? Did I prove that I could navigate a new place by myself? Yes, I did. I mean, I got the Ubers, I figured out the restaurants, I bought the groceries, I found my way around, and I did that. So I'm proud of myself for that. I booked the Airbnb by myself. I got around the airport. Like, all these things that can be stressful, you can do it. If you're considering going on a solo trip or just a trip in general, do it. What is stopping you? Like, just do it. I would highly encourage this for anybody, especially in your 20s. Like, if anything, do it so that you can find yourself a little bit more, because it's really hard to find yourself when you're in a place where everyone expects you to be something and everyone knows you for who you are in that place. But going somewhere else, you get to just be someone else. And from a content perspective, I finally decided, like, I am who I am, and I just posted. I didn't care. I posted whatever I was thinking. I vlogged, and it felt really fun and carefree, and I didn't care about the angles. And I recorded from down here, and my neck is burnt and my chest, and I didn't care. And I was like, you know what? Who fucking cares? None of these people know me. I can do whatever I want. And now I'm going to adopt that here too. Like, really, I may run into these people because, yeah, we might live in the same city or whatever. Or these people are from my high school on my social media still, or whatever it may be. But I just don't care anymore. And I feel like I've never had that. Prior to this trip, I could say I didn't care, but I still in the back of my head would be like, oh, is this cringy? Or like, whatever. Or I look bad in this, or I don't have makeup on, or whatever I used to think. None of that was existing on this trip. Like, I recorded whatever I wanted. I didn't care who was watching. I recorded in public and people were standing right next to me. And I felt fine about it. So, if anything, I stopped being embarrassed, which, as I made a TikTok about too, that's just a huge barrier. If you can exist in this world and just do things because you want to, and because you feel called to, and because you want to be creative or you want to be curious, and you can do that without thinking, oh my God, how is everybody perceiving me? You will be so free. So I'm telling you, go somewhere else and just see how you respond to the environment. See how you act. See if you find anything out about yourself that you didn't know already. Test the power of your mind. Can you really get whatever you want? So that was the thing I kind of set out to see as well. And yeah, honestly, I can, because when I said I wanted an umbrella, I thought I was going to get one from the Dollar Tree, whatever. as if you guys saw the TikTok, sorry I keep referencing TikTok if you don't have it or whatever, but I did make a huge series on this trip, so sorry about that. But yeah, I wanted an umbrella. I ended up not only getting an umbrella, but a beach chair as well for $13. And the woman at the thrift store said I could return it with the receipt to get half of my money back, which I didn't end up doing, but what are the odds? Like, stumbled upon that, crazy. And so, yeah, I can get whatever I want. I can just go somewhere and stumble upon things and be creative and just let my mind believe what I want it to believe. That's really what I mean by I can get what I want. Not from like, oh, I get everything that I want. No, from like oh, if I need something or I'm desiring an experience, I can make it happen. Like, why not? And so I do recognize my privilege, of course, and that's very important for me to mention. I am aware of it. But your mind is so much more powerful than you think, and I would just let yourself roll with the punches. Let yourself choose the way and just flow into it. Don't stress so much about the details. Decide what you want and just go after it. Treat life like an experiment. Treat it a little bit less strict. Be a little bit more carefree. Go with the flow. So, yeah, I was spontaneous. Will I be using standby more? Yes, because now I know, okay, I know what I liked about this trip. I know what I didn't like or what I wish could have went better or made it easier, but I know all of that. And honestly, I was literally gone for 2 days. So, all of this growth in 2 days, what could I experience if I was gone for 2 weeks or 2 months? Traveling is such a beautiful experience, and being able to gain this outside perspective that you can't get from just interacting with the people in your hometown or the town that you currently live in. Like, you have to step foot out of your comfort zone and allow yourself to be in contact with people that have no idea who you are, where you come from, and to tell you their stories and to hear about yours and to grow and experience and live through them and live through whatever you want to do. I realized that really you have to allow yourself to be bored. Like, being bored, being observant, that is so powerful. I mean, I've recently started to draw, and I'm this is a new thing for me. Like, not saying I've never drawn before, but like, it's been probably less than 10 times that I've sat down and been like, I'm going to draw in a sketchbook. Like, that was not ever something I did. And if I did do it, it was like, oh, what is my image that I'm looking off of? And I was very structured with it. Like, I'm trying to exactly copy what this thing looks like. And I'm good at it. I'm good at mimicking something. But as I said, I was creating a challenge for myself to create and do that just looking at something. It inspired me. And I drew on the plane, and I drew when I was waiting for my table, and I drew on this bench, and I felt so cool because nobody knows me. Like, when that couple interacted with me, they literally said, "Oh, are you an artist? I've loved watching you draw." And I'm like, "Am I an artist?" Like, no, you got the wrong sister. My younger sister, she's an artist. But it's like, you know what? Yeah, I am an artist. Like, what? How cool is that? Anyone can be anything they want to be. And I actually sold an art piece. Recently, I put something on my story that I drew, and somebody liked it so much that she was like, "Can you draw something like that for me?" And I did, and I sold it. And now I'm like, "Oh my God, I am an artist." Like, you're an artist, I'm an artist, everybody's an artist. How cool. We can just wake up and decide what we want to be. So, this was a long one, but I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you got some perspective on what it means to travel and enjoy your time alone and find yourself And I'll go back to that question. Can you feel true happiness alone, or does it only come from shared experiences and connections? So, my best moments on this trip were me connecting with other people, but the connection that I fostered within myself was so powerful that I did feel happy. If you've poured into yourself and you've taken the time to get to know yourself and to explore what you love and what makes you feel peace and bliss, then you can experience happiness alone because you're putting yourself in environments where you are going to thrive. And yes, people and connection can enhance those experiences. But if you have peace within your mind and the experiences that will make you feel joy, then why wouldn't you feel the feeling? Why do you have to have somebody else there to validate your experience? Validate it for yourself. And if somebody is there to experience it with you, that's beautiful, but you don't need them. And I guess that's what was a wake up call for me. You don't need anybody else. You are the whole piece. Anybody else that comes along or is in your presence should enhance that feeling. They should add to it. They should not take away. They should not be the other half. They should just be an enhancement. And there's a lot of beauty in that. There's a lot of power in knowing anything that you set out to do, whether that's just going out to breakfast by yourself or going to an art museum or whatever it may be, you can do all of those things alone. And even further, you can take a trip alone. You can enjoy your presence so much that you have confidence that if nobody else is there, you will still be happy. Be open to connection. Be open to talking to strangers. Compliment other people. But know that if all else fails, you have yourself. And if there's peace within your own mind, you'll radiate that peace to every environment that you step foot in. So take the solo trip, explore, and find yourself and let your curiosities and your interests and your desires lead the way. Don't stress too much about the details. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you next week. Love you.
Yeah, I'm having fun. You having fun? But yeah, and you told us that you didn't have a prom. Like you made sacrifices for basketball. Like I made sacrifices for like education, I guess I would say. Right. And also is very much just a nerd. So I didn't necessarily like have a prom date. Okay. And would love to have a dance.